You are sitting across the table from someone who is objectively wonderful. They are kind, they listen when you speak, and they have made their intentions clear from the very beginning. There are no guessing games, no 3-day delays in texting, and no hidden agendas. On paper, this is exactly what you have said you wanted for years. You have spent countless nights wishing for a partner who is consistent and emotionally available. Yet, now that this person is right in front of you, you do not feel a sense of relief or joy. Instead, you feel a profound, unsettling flatness. You might describe it to your friends as a lack of chemistry, or say that the spark just isn't there. You might even feel a sudden wave of irritation or repulsion simply because they are being nice to you. This reaction can be incredibly confusing and guilt-inducing. You might wonder if you are incapable of love or if you are self-sabotaging yet again. But there is a very high probability that you are not broken and that this potential partner is not actually dull. The reality is that your nervous system is reacting to a new environment that it does not yet know how to navigate. You are mistaking the absence of anxiety for the absence of love. To understand why this happens, we have to look at how your brain and body have been conditioned by your past experiences. If you are used to relationships that are volatile, unpredictable, or emotionally distant, your nervous system has adapted to that environment. In a chaotic dynamic, your body is frequently flooded with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. You live in a state of high alert, constantly scanning for signs of rejection or abandonment. When a partner in such a dynamic finally gives you a crumb of affection or reassurance, your brain releases a massive hit of dopamine. This creates a powerful chemical cycle known as intermittent reinforcement. It is the same psychological mechanism that makes gambling addictive. You do not know when the reward is coming, so you stay glued to the machine, waiting for the high. Over time, your brain begins to associate this high-stakes, anxiety-ridden loop with passion. You learn to interpret the racing heart and the sweaty palms as signs of deep connection, when in reality, they are often signs of a threat response. When you step out of that chaos and into a secure interaction, the chemical landscape changes strictly. A secure partner does not provide intermittent reinforcement, they provide consistent reinforcement. There are no sudden withdrawals of affection that spike your anxiety, and therefore, there are no desperate lows followed by euphoric highs. The relationship operates on a steady, even keel. For a nervous system that has developed a tolerance for high drama, this stability feels like withdrawal. You are no longer getting those jagged spikes of dopamine that you have come to label as chemistry. Instead, you are faced with a calm, predictable safety. Because your internal alarm system is finally silent, you might interpret this silence as emptiness. You look for the adrenaline rush, and when you do not find it, you assume the relationship is dead. In truth, your nervous system is finally resting, but it finds the quiet suspicious because it is unfamiliar with peace. This phenomenon often manifests in very specific everyday patterns that can derail a budding healthy relationship. One common tendency is the urge to manufacture conflict where none exists. You might find yourself having a perfectly pleasant Sunday morning, and suddenly you feel a crawling sensation of restlessness. Without consciously realizing why, you might pick a fight about something trivial, like the dishes or a tone of voice. This is not because you are an angry person, it is because your body is seeking a familiar sensation. If you are used to fighting to feel close, or fighting to prove you care, peace feels like indifference. By creating a crisis, you force an emotional reaction, which, paradoxically, makes you feel safer because it returns you to a known state of high arousal. You provoke the dragon, just to make sure it is still there. Another pattern is the misinterpretation of consistency as desperation or lack of value. In the dating phase, if someone texts you back immediately or asks to see you again without playing it cool, you might feel the ick. You might perceive them as too easy or unchallenging. This is often a defense mechanism. We are frequently taught that love is something we must earn through struggle. If someone gives us their attention freely, our subconscious logic assumes it must not be worth very much. We devalue the secure person because they are not forcing us to jump through hoops. Meanwhile, we continue to romanticize the emotionally unavailable people from our past, remembering them as exciting and mysterious, while conveniently forgetting the anxiety and pain they caused. We mistake their inconsistency for complexity, and we mistake the secure partner's transparency for simplicity. It is also common to feel a sense of loss or grief when transitioning to a healthy dynamic. We often do not talk about this because it sounds counterintuitive. Why would you grieve the loss of a toxic pattern? But if your identity has been wrapped up in being the fixer, the chaser, or the victim, a healthy relationship essentially puts you out of a job. There is no one to fix. There is no one to chase. You are forced to just sit there and be yourself, without the distraction of a relationship crisis to occupy your mind. This can be terrifying. It brings up all the internal thoughts and feelings you were using the drama to suppress. You might feel bored, not because the other person is boring, but because you are finally left alone with your own thoughts in the quiet space they provide. If you recognize these patterns in yourself, there are practical tools you can use to reframe your experience and retrain your nervous system. The first step is to conduct what we can call a boredom audit. When you feel that wave of flatness or the urge to pull away, take a moment to journal or reflect on the specific quality of that boredom. Ask yourself if the person is truly uninteresting, meaning you have nothing in common, you do not share values, and you cannot talk to them. Or if the boredom is actually peace. Is the silence heavy and awkward, or is it just calm? Are you bored with them, or are you bored because you are not anxious? Writing this down helps you separate the objective reality of the connection from your internal chemical withdrawal. It allows you to see that the person might be great, but your drug of choice, the drama, is missing. Another helpful technique is the 5-minute pause. This is particularly useful when you feel the sudden urge to sabotage a moment or pick a fight. When you feel that spike of irritation or that compulsion to push the other person away, freeze. Do not act on it for 5 full minutes. During this time, acknowledge that your nervous system is likely trying to protect you from the vulnerability of intimacy. Remind yourself that you are safe. Use this pause to regulate your breathing and bring your body back to the present moment. Often, the urge to create chaos is a wave that will pass if you do not ride it. By simply waiting, you interrupt the neural pathway that says peace equals danger, and you give your brain a chance to learn a new association. It is helpful to challenge the myths we hold about what strength and passion look like. We often believe that a strong connection must feel like a collision. We tell ourselves that if we are not suffering or obsessing, we are not really in love. But this is a narrative that keeps us stuck in pain. Real strength is not about enduring the highs and lows of a volatile partner. Real strength is the ability to show up consistently for someone who shows up for you. It takes much more courage to be vulnerable in a quiet, safe room than it does to fight a war. You might have a friend who says, "I just need that spark," and you watch them cycle through the same heartbreak year after year. Reframing your goal from finding a spark to building a fire can be transformative. A spark is flashy and instant, but it burns out quickly and leaves you in the dark. A fire requires steady attention, fuel, and protection, but it keeps you warm for a lifetime. As you practice staying in the discomfort of safety, you may find that your definition of attraction begins to shift. At first, the secure partner feels like a vegetable dish when you are used to candy. It might seem bland, but as you nourish yourself with it, you start to feel better. You start to sleep better. You have more energy for your career, your hobbies, and your friends, because you are not exhausting all your resources on relationship management. You begin to appreciate the subtle flavors of reliability, humor, and genuine care. You realize that boring was just a label you used for safe, and that safety is actually the foundation upon which true sustainable intimacy is built. The transition from a chaotic attachment style to a secure one is not an overnight process. It is a rewiring of deep-seated habits. You will likely mess up. You will likely have days where you miss the adrenaline. That is normal. Be patient with yourself. The goal is not to force yourself to love someone you simply do not like. The goal is to ensure you do not reject someone wonderful simply because they are not hurting you. It is about learning to tolerate the quiet long enough to see what grows in it. So the next time you find yourself thinking that a stable relationship feels boring, stop and ask yourself a question. Are you really looking for a partner, or are you looking for a plot twist? If you are ready for a partner, then that boredom you feel might just be the sound of the war finally ending. It is the feeling of arriving home. And while coming home might not be an adrenaline rush, it is exactly where you need to be to rest, recover, and build a life that is truly your own.